I never set out to be the guy who caught his wife cheating, but here I am, living that nightmare. My name's Mark, and I'd say my life was pretty decent. Steady job, comfortable home, a wife I thought I could trust. But lately, things started to feel off. And looking back, I can see the signs like they were neon arrows pointing straight to the truth. Jennifer and I had been married for 5 years. At first, it was a classic love story. Lots of passion, laughter, the usual honeymoon phase. But as the years went by, something changed. Maybe it was the grind of daily life, the stresses of work, or just the way we settled into a routine. I thought we were just in a lull, but now I wonder if it was more than that. Jennifer had taken a part-time job at a marketing firm, claiming it was just to bring in some extra cash. But soon after, I noticed she was always working late. It started small, her phone buzzing at odd hours or her suddenly needing to take calls in another room. Each time she'd toss me a quick, "It's work stuff, don't worry about it." I wanted to believe her. Then there were the business trips, at least that's what she called them. The first time I thought nothing of it. She packed her bags, told me she'd be gone 2 nights for a meeting. I waved her off, wishing her luck. But when the second trip came around, I started feeling uneasy. Why did she need to go to another city for a part-time job? And why did her stories about the trip start to sound a little too rehearsed? The tipping point came when I checked the credit card bill. I was just reviewing our monthly expenses, boring adult stuff, when I noticed a charge for a hotel in the city she claimed was just a quick business meeting. The dates didn't match up. She was gone for 3 nights, but the hotel charge was for 4. And the kicker, there was a charge for a fancy restaurant, one I knew she wouldn't have gone to alone. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. My stomach turned. I knew I had to confront her. I didn't want to believe it, but it was hard to ignore the gnawing feeling that my wife was lying too. She was up to something, and I needed to get to the bottom of it. When she got back from her latest business trip, I tried to keep my cool, but inside I was a storm. I couldn't help but think about what she was really doing while she was gone. As soon as she walked through the door, I confronted her. "Where were you really, Jennifer?" I'd rehearsed this in my head a million times, but standing there, I just felt sick. She looked startled, her face spinning through confusion and then a flash of annoyance. "What are you talking about?" She snapped, trying to play innocent, but I was holding the credit card statement like a damning piece of evidence. I laid it out for her, and I could see her scramble for an excuse. "It's just a work dinner, Mark. You know how these things are." She insisted, but her voice was shaky. So there I was, staring at my wife, this woman I thought I knew, and she was unraveling right in front of me. I could feel my heart racing, anger bubbling up. "I know what I saw," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're lying to me." She scoffed. "You're being ridiculous. I'm working hard to help us, and you're going to question me." The defensiveness in her tone was infuriating. I felt like I was losing my mind. I needed to know the truth. "Who is he, Jennifer?" I pressed, my voice a mix of hurt and rage. Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought I saw fear. "There's no one else. You're being paranoid." She tried to deflect, but I could tell she was cornered. Just then I had a realization, an urge to dig deeper. This wasn't just about her lies anymore. It was about me reclaiming my dignity. I was done playing the fool. The emotional impact of her betrayal hit hard, but I knew I had to keep my head on straight. From that moment on, I began to formulate my plan. I couldn't just let this slide. I was going to find out everything. I needed to understand how deep this betrayal ran and how I would confront it. Was I ready to throw away 5 years of my life for this? I didn't know, but one thing was for sure: I was going to get my answers. That night after Jennifer stormed off to bed, I sat in the living room, replaying the conversation over and over in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. It was like a weight pressing down on my chest. I felt angry, but there was also this deep, gnawing sadness. The woman I thought I knew was slipping away, replaced by someone I barely recognized. For the next few days, I decided to keep my distance. I went to work, came home, and tried to act as if everything was normal. But in reality, every moment was consumed with thoughts of what could be happening behind my back. I caught her glancing at her phone more than usual, laughing at texts I couldn't see. The feeling of being an outsider in my own home only amplified with each passing day. I knew I had to dig deeper, so I started doing some research. I spent hours online, reading articles about how to catch a cheating spouse. It felt strange, almost like I was slipping into a role I never wanted, but curiosity and suspicion turned into determination. I needed proof, something concrete to confront her with. I approached her with a casual demeanor, asking about her work, about the people she worked with. I even faked interest in her part-time job, trying to gather any information I could. "So, who's your boss?" I asked one evening while we were having dinner. Her response was vague, and I noticed a flash of guilt dart across her face. It was enough to fuel my instincts further. Then, while I was cleaning out the garage, a mindless task that allowed me to think, I stumbled across an old box of our wedding memorabilia. I rifled through it, remembering the good times we'd shared, and it made me feel even more conflicted. I loved Jennifer, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was betraying that love. Determined to find out the truth, I decided to start tracking her activities. I knew how paranoid this sounded, but I felt like I was pushed to the edge. I installed a tracking app on her phone without her knowing. In theory, it felt like a terrible invasion of privacy, but the reality was I was desperate for answers. I justified it to myself by saying that I had every right to know where she was going if she was being dishonest. The next week was tense. Whenever she left the house, I would check the app constantly, waiting for the notifications to come through. I felt like a detective, every ping sending my heart racing, but I also felt guilty for invading her privacy. It was a strange mix of betrayal and desperation, and I couldn't help but question myself. Was I becoming the villain in this story? Finally, the day came when I got the confirmation I'd been dreading. She left for work, and I noticed the app showed she was heading to a different part of town. My heart sank as I followed her location in real time. I felt sick as I watched her drive to a hotel, the same hotel where I saw the charge on the credit card bill. At that moment, everything in me boiled over. I was overcome with a mix of anger, disbelief, and sorrow. I couldn't just sit back and wait for her to come home. I needed to confront her now. I grabbed my car keys and drove to the hotel, practically shaking with anticipation and dread. Each mile felt like an eternity as I wrestled with the reality of what I was about to confront. When I arrived, I parked the car and sat for a moment, collecting my thoughts. Did I want to storm in there demanding answers? Or should I wait and catch her in the act? The latter felt like a betrayal to my own conscience, but I also wanted the truth in its rawest form, unfiltered by her excuses. Finally, driven by a mix of anger and despair, I decided to go inside. My heart raced as I walked toward the reception desk, asking if Jennifer was checked in. The clerk looked up with a polite smile, and I felt like I was being crushed under the weight of my own fear. "Yes, she's here," the clerk replied, taking a moment to look up the reservation. "Room 302, sir." The world around me faded as I made my way to the elevator. My mind raced with possibilities, each scenario worse than the last. I couldn't believe this was happening. My whole life, my marriage, was unraveling in front of me. As I approached room 302, my heart pounded in my chest. I hesitated for a moment, my hand hovering over the door. Part of me wanted to knock, to confront her right then and there, but another part was terrified of what I would find. Taking a deep breath, I knocked on the door. The sound echoed in the corridor, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. I waited, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it might burst. After a few agonizing seconds, there was a shuffle inside, and my stomach dropped. Jennifer opened the door, and the shock on her face was priceless. I could see the gears turning in her mind as she tried to figure out how to play this off. But there was no pretending now. I had caught her red-handed, and I was ready to face the reality of what that meant for us. "Mark," she stammered, glancing behind her as if hoping to hide something. It was the moment of truth, and I was ready to confront the lies. "Jennifer, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. I pushed past her into the hotel room, the space small and cramped, filled with the faint scent of cheap cologne. My heart raced as I processed the scene before me. There were bags strewn across the bed, clothes half hanging from a chair, but what caught my attention was the man half hidden behind the bathroom door, clearly trying to make himself scarce. I turned to her, disbelief and anger boiling over. "Is this why you've been working late? Who is he?" I demanded, my voice rising. I felt like I was losing control, but I couldn't let that show. I needed answers, and I had to confront this head-on. Jennifer's expression flickered between surprise and defiance as she stepped forward, trying to shield her lover. "Mark, you don't understand. It's not what it looks like," she exclaimed, her voice raising in pitch, clearly trying to downplay the situation. "Then what is it, Jennifer?" I shot back, my fists clenched at my sides. "You're in a hotel room with another man. How can you possibly think this is anything but what it looks like?" She took a step back, glancing nervously at the bathroom door. "Please, just let me explain," she pleaded. I could see the panic in her eyes, but I was beyond listening to excuses. "Explain. You've been lying to me for months, telling me you were working late and going on business trips, when all along you were here. Do you even realize how ridiculous you sound?" I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, the betrayal clawing at my insides. At that moment, the man stepped out from behind the bathroom door, his expression a mixture of alarm and irritation. He was tall, with an easy smile that felt like a slap in my face. I recognized him immediately, a colleague of hers from the marketing firm, someone she'd mentioned a few times. The sight of him only fueled my anger further. "So this is the business partner you've been spending all this time with?" I spat, my gaze flickering between the two of them. The reality of the situation crashed down on me like a ton of bricks. Jennifer opened her mouth to say something, but the words fell flat. Instead, she shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the man as if looking for support. "Mark, please just listen," she started, but I cut her off. "No, I've heard enough of your lies," I could feel the hot tears welling in my eyes, but I wasn't about to let them fall. "You think I'd just stand by while you tear apart our marriage?" She opened her mouth again, but the man beside her chimed in. "Look, man, this isn't what you think." His tone was almost condescending, as if he thought I'd fall for some half-hearted explanation. I spun around to face him, my anger boiling to the surface. "You think I don't see what's going on here? You're the reason my marriage is falling apart." "Enough," she shouted, suddenly fierce. "You don't get to come in here and dictate how this goes. I've had enough of your suffocating rules, Mark." Her words stung, piercing through the anger and straight into my heart. I had thought we were a team, but it felt like she was casting me as the villain in her own twisted story. "Rules? Is that what you call it? Me wanting to know where my wife is and who she's with? That's not suffocating, that's called being a husband." I felt the heat rushing to my face, my heart pounding violently in my chest. Jennifer took a deep breath, her expression shifting again, revealing a hint of vulnerability. "Mark, I didn't want it to turn into this. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. This was supposed to be a little escape for me." I scoffed at her words, disbelief mingling with the hurt. "An escape? By cheating on me? You think that's a solution?" "Yes, I needed to feel wanted again," she shot back, her voice shaky but defiant. "You don't pay attention to me, Mark. You've been so wrapped up in your own world that I felt invisible. I felt like I was losing my grip, the reality of our situation hitting me hard." "So, you decided the answer was infidelity?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "That's how you fix feeling invisible, by sleeping with someone else?" The man shifted awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with the confrontation, but he didn't leave. I wanted him to. I wanted to handle this alone. But there he stood, a physical testament to her betrayal, and I was helpless to remove him from the equation. Jennifer opened her mouth to reply, but the words faltered. Instead, tears began to spill down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Mark. I got lost in everything. I didn't think it would go this far." "Didn't think?" I echoed, my voice rising again. "You didn't think it would hurt me. You didn't think I'd find out you've been living a double life." I took a step back, feeling overwhelmed by the entire situation. This wasn't just about her betrayal, it was about everything we had built together. The love we once shared felt like a distant memory, replaced by this shocking reality. As I looked into her tear-streaked face, I realized this was an emotional battle and I was exhausted. I had to make a decision. Could I forgive her? Did I even want to try? The weight of the moment pressed down on me and I felt my resolve waver. I was in a storm and I didn't know how to weather it. I was on the brink of a decision that would change everything, but I needed clarity first. "Tell me the truth, Jennifer," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Is this over? Is there any way we can fix this?" I waited for her response, desperate for a Sign, a glimmer of hope that maybe we could salvage what was left of our marriage. But deep down, I feared what her answer might be. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Jennifer's eyes flickered, searching for the right words, but all I could see was the weight of her guilt settling heavily on her shoulders. I stood there, heart racing, waiting for a response that could either lead to the possibility of healing or the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. Finally, she took a deep breath, her voice trembling as she spoke. "Mark, I don't know if we can fix this. I never wanted to hurt you, but I got caught up in something I didn't know how to stop. The thrill of it all, it made me feel alive again." I felt my heart shatter as her words sunk in. "You felt alive by betraying the person who loves you the most. How does that even make sense?" My tone was incredulous, and I couldn't hide the hurt that laced my words. "It was a mistake, Mark. A stupid, reckless mistake," she pleaded, her eyes welling with tears. "I did. Think about what it meant for us. I just wanted to feel wanted, to escape the day-to-day routine." The man beside her shifted, clearly uncomfortable with the intimate nature of this confrontation. I shot him a glare, not wanting him to influence anything that was happening between us. I needed this moment to focus solely on Jennifer and our marriage, even if that felt like a distant memory. "Do you love him?" I asked, the question hanging heavily in the air. I had to know if this was just a fling or if she had developed real feelings. She hesitated, and that hesitation felt like a knife twisting in my gut. "I don't know," she finally admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I got caught up in the excitement, but I love you, Mark. You're my husband. This was a mistake." "Sounds like a convenient excuse," I shot back, my anger flaring again. "What did you think would happen? That I'd just forgive you because you felt bored with our life?" "I know it sounds bad," she said, her voice softening, "but I want to make it right. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, whatever it takes," I repeated, feeling the anger boil back to the surface. "You've already shattered my trust. What could you possibly do to fix that?" The room filled with tension, and behind her I could see the man getting antsy, clearly wishing he hadn't stuck around. "Look, man," he said, trying to interject. "This isn't the place for this. Maybe you two should just talk it out alone." "No, you don't get to just walk away," I spat, turning my attention back to Jennifer. "You brought him into our lives, and now you want to pretend this whole thing didn't happen." Jennifer looked between us, her expression faltering as she grasped the gravity of her actions. "I'm sorry for dragging you into this, but please focus on me, on us. We need to talk." "Talk?" I echoed, incredulous. "What is there to talk about? You made your choice." "I made a mistake," she insisted, her voice cracking. "I loved what we had, but I lost sight of that. I want to fight for us, Mark, please. Just give me a chance." The emotions swirled inside me: frustration, anger, pain, and a glimmer of the love I used to feel for her. Could I possibly forgive her? But at that moment I realized I wasn't just grappling with her betrayal, I was also wrestling with my own heart. "Do you even understand what you've done?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You've broken the foundation of our marriage. How can I trust anything you say right now?" She reached out, pleading with her eyes. "I know I've hurt you, and I can't take back what I've done. But I want to try to make this right. Let's go to counseling. Let's work through this together." Counseling. The word felt foreign, a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. Could I really see a future where we could work through this? Or was it simply a desperate attempt to salvage something that had already drowned? I glanced at the man beside her, and the reality of the situation crystallized in my mind. "You need to choose, Jennifer," I said finally, my tone resolute. "You have to decide what you want. If you want him, go. But if you want our marriage, then you need to cut him out completely." Her eyes widened. "Mark, it's not that simple. I don't want to lose you." "Then prove it," I countered, my heart hammering with every word. "You need to show me you're serious about repairing this. No more lies, no more secrets. If you want to be with me, then you need to make a clean break." The silence hung heavy once again as she processed my words. I could see the turmoil in her expression, conflicted, torn between what she had done and what she still felt for me. "I'll do it," she said finally, her voice steady. "I'll cut him out. I don't want to lose you, Mark. You're my husband, and I made a terrible mistake." I felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly extinguished by the doubts swirling in my mind. Could I really trust her to follow through? Would she be able to break free from whatever it was that had drawn her to him in the first place? "Then you need to tell him," I said, my voice firm. "Today. Right now." Jennifer looked at me, eyes wide with surprise, and I could tell she was wrestling with the gravity of that request, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't start to heal until she took that step. Taking a deep breath, she turned to the man who was still lurking in the corner, tension radiating off him. "I need you to leave," she said, her voice shaking slightly. This isn't what I want anymore." He looked taken aback and opened his mouth to protest, but I cut him off. "No, she's making a choice right now, and you're not part of that." The atmosphere in the room felt charged, as though the very air around us was crackling with unresolved tension. I watched as Jennifer's expression hardened, and I felt a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take the first step toward healing. But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, and I would have to navigate the emotional fallout of this betrayal. It wouldn't be easy, but it was a start that I desperately hoped would lead us back to each other. As she gathered her resolve, I held my breath, waiting for her next move. Would she truly choose me? Would she be willing to fight for our marriage? The answer was just within reach, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of our future hanging in the balance. The air in the hotel room felt thick with tension as we waited for Jennifer to make her decision. I could sense the palpable uncertainty radiating from her, and my heart raced. The man standing in the corner shifted awkwardly, clearly unsure of what to do next. I glared at him, my emotions swirling like a tempest. I wanted him gone, and I wanted Jennifer to choose me. "Please, Jennifer," I urged, my voice low but firm. "This is your chance. You need to tell him that it's over." She took a deep breath, her eyes darting between me and the man she had betrayed me with. "You need to leave," she finally said, her voice trembling but resolute, though I could see the fear flickering in her eyes. The man's expression soured, and he opened his mouth to protest, but I stepped forward, cutting him off. "You heard her. It's done. Just walk out and let her have this moment." He looked at Jennifer, searching for some sign of reassurance. "You really want this?" he asked, his tone incredulous. "You're going to throw everything away?" "Yes," Jennifer replied, her voice steadier now. "I'm making my choice." With a resigned sigh, the man glanced at me, giving a curt nod before heading toward the door. I watched as he walked away, anger still simmering in my chest. I didn't want her to have any doubts about her decision, any regrets about what she was choosing to leave behind. When the door clicked shut behind him, I turned back to Jennifer. She looked fragile but determined, her features drawn tight with conflicting emotions. "I'm so sorry, Mark," she said, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I never wanted it to come to this." "Then why did it?" I asked, my voice softening slightly, though I couldn't completely mask the hurt. "Why did you let it go this far?" "I don't know," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I got lost in everything. I wanted to feel wanted, and I made terrible choices." I ran a hand through my hair, trying to make sense of the chaos. "Feeling neglected is one thing, but cheating is a choice, Jennifer. You didn't think about what it would do to us." "I know, and I regret it deeply," she said, stepping closer. "I want to fix this. I want to make it right between us." "Do you?" I challenged, searching her eyes for sincerity. "If you really want to fix this, you need to understand what it would take. It's going to take more than just words, Jennifer. You have to show me." She nodded, still sniffling, but with a renewed determination in her eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes. I'll cut ties with him completely. No more lies, no more secrets, I promise." "Okay," I said slowly, weighing the gravity of her promise. "But it's not just about cutting him out. You need to confront why you felt the need to go outside our marriage in the first place." Jennifer looked down, her shoulders sagging under the weight of guilt. "I've been selfish, Mark. I thought I could handle everything myself, but I didn't. I let my insecurities take over." The honesty. Her words struck a chord within me, but I still felt the sting of betrayal. "You think it's that easy? Just saying you're sorry and cutting him out fixes everything." "No, I know it's not." Her voice was steady now, conviction shining through her tears. "But I want to fight for us, for the love we had. I don't want to lose you." My heart softened slightly, but the road ahead felt daunting. If we're going to move forward, we need to communicate, and that means being open and honest about everything. I can't keep living in a shadow of doubt. "I understand," she said, wiping her eyes. "I'll share everything. No more hiding, I promise." I could feel the weight of my anger beginning to lift, but I still felt the need to establish boundaries. And you need to be prepared for the consequences of your actions. Trust isn't something that can just be rebuilt overnight. It takes time. I'm ready, she said, her gaze unwavering. I realize how much I've jeopardized, and I'm willing to put in the effort to regain your trust. I'll do anything to make this work. I took a deep breath, the mix of hope and skepticism swirling inside me. The hurt was still raw, but there was a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a while, a glimmer of hope that maybe we could forge a new path together. Let's take it one step at a time, I said, my voice softer now. We can start with counseling, talking about what led us here in the first place. I want to understand why you turned to him instead of coming to me. Absolutely, she said, relief washing over her features. I want to be open with you, and I'll do whatever it takes to make sure this doesn't happen again. We stood there, the weight of our conversation hanging heavy in the air, but for the first time in a while, I felt like we were heading toward a resolution. The road ahead would be rocky, but if we were both committed to making changes, maybe there was hope for us yet. Let's go home, I said finally, the decision feeling monumental. Let's figure this out together. As we left the hotel room behind, I couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty, but I also felt a sense of relief. We had a long way to go, but for now, we were taking the first step together, a step toward rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. It wouldn't be easy, and I didn't know what the future held, but maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. I was willing to try as long as she was too. As we drove home in silence, I realized this was the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, one that would require hard work, honesty, and a willingness to confront our past. And while the road remained uncertain, the flicker of hope kept me moving forward. The drive home was filled with an uneasy quiet. The weight of everything we had just faced lingered in the air, heavy and unyielding. I glanced over at Jennifer, her face reflecting a mixture of relief and anxiety. I wanted to believe that she was sincere about wanting to fix our marriage, but trust was a fragile thing, and mine felt shattered. Once we arrived, I opened the door to our home, a space that had felt so warm and inviting. Before this betrayal, but now seemed shadowed by doubt. Every corner of the house held memories, both joyful and painful, and I couldn't help but feel a wave of nostalgia wash over me. "Are you hungry?" I asked, trying to break the silence as we stepped inside. My voice sounded foreign, almost robotic. "A little," she said, running a hand through her hair, clearly still processing everything. "Do you want me to make something?" "Let's just order takeout," I suggested, not wanting to dive into anything that felt like the normalcy we once had. We needed a moment to breathe before tackling the bigger conversations that awaited us. As we settled onto the couch, I pulled out my phone to place an order. I could feel the tension in the air, the enormity of our situation weighing down both of us. After a few moments of silence, I decided to break the ice. "About counseling. I think it's crucial for us," I began, careful with my words. "We need to unpack everything, why this happened and how we can avoid it in the future." "I agree," Jennifer said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm willing to go, and I'll make sure to be completely honest about everything." I nodded, appreciating her willingness to engage with the process. "It's not just about you either. I need to reflect on how I can improve. We need to work together." "I understand," she replied, her eyes showing a glimmer of hope. "I want this to be a partnership again. I don't want you to feel neglected or unappreciated." "Good intentions are a start," I said, trying to keep my tone serious. "But we need to focus on actions too. I need to see that you're committed to this." "I will be," she assured me, her voice steady. "I'm ready to put in the work. This is too important to me." Just then the doorbell rang and my heart skipped a beat. It felt like an interruption, pulling me from the heavy conversation into the mundane reality of life. I got up to answer it, grateful for the distraction. After I brought in the food and set it on the table, we both sat down to eat, the atmosphere still thick with tension, but at least now we were engaged in something familiar. As we ate, the conversation began to flow more naturally. We touched on lighter topics, shared memories, inside jokes, but the underlying tension never fully dissipated. "I miss us," I said after a pause, staring down at my plate. I miss the way we used to be before all of this. I do too, Jennifer replied, her voice laced with regret. And I know I've hurt you deeply. I wish I could take it back, but I can't. All I can do is try to make amends. I know, I said, my heart aching. But it's going to take time. I'm not sure how long it will take me to trust you again. I'm willing to wait, she said, her sincerity shining through. I'll prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve. The next few weeks were a whirlwind, filled with counseling sessions and hard conversations. We explored the depths of our issues, and I listened as Jennifer opened up about her feelings of inadequacy and isolation. It was painful to hear, but it also felt necessary. We were peeling back layers that had been buried under the weight of routine and neglect. As we worked through our problems, I realized that while her actions had shattered my trust, her willingness to confront her mistakes and communicate openly offered a glimmer of hope. It wasn't an easy journey, and there were days when I felt overwhelmed by doubt. But we kept going, inching toward healing, driven by the desire to save what we had built together. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I turned to her and said, "You know, I still love you. Despite everything I do. I love you too, Mark," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "And I'll never take that love for granted again, I promise." In that moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we could rebuild this. Maybe we could find our way back to each other. As we leaned in for a hug, I felt something shift, an understanding that love could be messy, yet still worth fighting for. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, I learned that healing is not linear. There were setbacks, moments of doubt, but there were also breakthroughs, small victories that reminded us both of the love we once had and the potential for a brighter future. Slowly but surely, we began to rebuild our trust. It was like placing the shards of a broken vase back together, and while the cracks remained visible, they told a story of resilience and growth. Reflecting back on the journey we had taken, I realized that the experience, though painful, had taught me invaluable lessons about communication, vulnerability, and the importance of being present in each other's lives. And to anyone facing similar challenges, I would say this: relationships take work, hard work. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a commitment, a choice that requires effort from both partners. If you're willing to confront your issues head-on and genuinely communicate, there's always a chance for redemption. So here we are, two imperfect people navigating the complexities of love, learning to trust again, and embracing the lessons that life has thrown our way. It's not the ending I expected, but it's ours, and for now, that's enough.